Parent-teacher night. This actually was the third episode of Zim. And, another Jonan and Rob script. It seems like all the scripts in that first season were Jonan and Rob. This was also a really nice idea. Never quite pulled off as well as it should have been, but it was a very, very nice idea for a show. It was great to show, Zim with his robo-parents. The robo-parents never quite were used as well as they were in this episode. And I don't think there was a lot that you could do with them. They were very minor secondary characters. It would have been nice to have seen them occasionally here and there in the show. Or to even get them out of that house occasionally. So, this was one of the original ideas for the series. I think when they decided to pick it up, came right out of Jonan or Rob. It was one of their ideas and went right to town on this. Very logical sort of progression of parent-teacher night story. Although I'd never really seen parent-teacher nights handled in animated shows. It's great also to see, the Irken, how this Irken birthing works. Those backpacks supposedly held the information of the Irken race in them. So when those backpacks were placed on somebody like Zim there were already emotions or knowledge. There was all sorts of stuff in there from the previous owners of the backpack. And when the body died, like if Zim were to die, the backpack would then go back to Irk and be put through a rotation and put back onto a, drained of knowledge into a central computer or something, and then put back onto a new Irken. And I believe it was actually a life support backpack as well. It was a design choice that Jonan did because I think he liked to wear backpacks. He always had a little backpack on. And I don't think he ever kept anything of any use in those backpacks. He just had them on. He thought they were a nice accoutrement. So he gave Zim a backpack, which was supposed to filter his blood and allow him to breathe and give him his personality and such. If the backpack was ever taken off, an Irken would supposedly die in about 10 minutes. And there was a script that we never got to do in the second season. It was just starting boarding, called 10 Minutes to Doom. And the whole story was that Zim loses his backpack. I think he gets hits off with a ball in a dodgeball fight. Zim spends the whole show trying to get this backpack, which I think Dib has. Dib's running away with it. The Robo-Parents are really creepy characters. They actually were absolutely loose cannons. These funny little asides. Also a very odd moment here because Gur ends up wearing all this makeup. He tried to keep away from this sort of a cross-dressing homosexuality stuff, and yet it's tended to slink in occasionally like this. Yeah, the board artist really had fun with this stuff. Like that, the sort of stuff that isn't in this script, or this. Originally that was a knife, I think. They were supposed to be stabbing each other, or she was supposed to be stabbing him with a butcher's knife. And there you go, there's Gur. Gur, cross-dresser. But the board artists realized on this series that they could add all sorts of things. They could have Zim's backpack, prop him up onto the seat instead of having him get up on the couch, These little video clips and all this audio that you hear here were stock video clips that we got of old cartoons from the 30s and 40s. It was funny when we got them. We just need to fill these monitors up. I thought we had unlimited rights to this tape of, I think it was like 60 minutes of stuff. Fortunately, I found out that we didn't. We only had rights to so many uses of it. And I think we extended our contract on it. We had to pay for extra time on it. But when we got the tape and we were looking at all these animations, I had to pick which scenes I wanted to use. And I remember I forget who it was, Monique Beatty or the line producer at the time. She's sitting there watching it with me when we go through the first pass. And every one of these cartoons had somebody drinking whiskey, shooting other people with guns, setting fires, beating people up, just the most violent and vile actions. And the whole crew sitting there watching with me, or the crew that was in my area, and we're all smiling our heads off because I was going to use all those scenes. And then the line producer turns to me before I can say anything. She says, "Do not use any scenes with whiskey, guns, or violence, please." So we had to pick out these innocent scenes. So you've got, the squirrels licking candy canes and stuff like that. Another little 3D scene. Never worked out quite as well as we wanted to. Supposed to really rush along tubes, but it was sort of an afterthought. I think probably the only 3D scene in this whole show. There's an ode to Star Wars, The Chasm, in the original. Death Star Chasm. One of the later episodes in the second season, which I think was done boarding but just never got animated, was called Robo-Parents Gone Crazy, I think was the name of it. And it again dealt with the Robo-Parents, but it didn't quite flesh them out as well as this. They sort of just lost their ability to obey Zim, and they sort of became their own creatures and took on Zim as a son. They actually believed they were real parents, and they soon substituted Zim because Zim was not obeying them with another son, which was just some huge bear creature. It's a pity it was never made. Sort of graphics like that, stuff that you just can't do anywhere else. I'm surprised we even got away with this stuff. No wonder Nickelodeon really didn't like the show that much, Very gruesome images. Maybe to kids now, those atom bomb sort of images, the fear of atomic annihilation that aren't so strong as they used to be. But boy, to people who grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s like I did, atomic annihilation was basically the end of the world, which was coming sooner or later. And it was the ultimate fear. Everybody was very afraid of it, and rightfully so. But it was this sort of ultimate fear, and one that was that was supposed to go unspoken in cartoons, and kids would have psychological problems thinking about such things. If they still do, I'm sure we're not helping out at all with this series by showing atom bombs going off. Oof. These kids. Really well written. Again, just the progress of events and the ideas and the humor. Really nice in these early episodes. I'm surprised that this series never took off with this sort of writing. And Zim still has that air of cuteness in these earlier episodes. The school really looks depressing. Jonan loved the idea of grime on walls, which is really pretty natural. There's a lot of grime on a lot of walls when you look around anywhere. Sooner or later everything becomes grimy, and he used it to great effect because the grime would actually add a layer of depth to the walls, not only color-wise but just perspectively. So you'll always see on walls, you'll see these streaks. They look like drips off of windows or streaks up from the floors. Maybe people cleaning smeared sponges up the walls. Really good choice. Really good design choice. And I believe those were Jonan's art choices, but I remember first seeing them in Jonan's comics when Ricky Simmons colored them. I believe I Feel Sick. Very, very nice touch. Just done with color, no line work. That teacher was also supposed to come back later on. Never did, though. I don't believe we ever had him back in another story, but he was in a couple more stories that were never shown or boarded or animated.